Hey, this is Thaddeus, and I guess I have a new subscriber. My name's Thaddeus Walker. His name's Thaddeus Walker Senior. No relation, but there's probably four of us in the world, and uh, he and his son are probably the other two. I don't know. Don't know how many there are. It's kind of scattered video, but I'm going to focus it mainly around Elon Musk. Been thinking about this for a little bit before this came up, but recently there's a discussion with a friend. We're not closely, you know, close friends or anything, but we're in the same circle, and I do know quite a bit about him, and he seems to be basically on the same side on most economic issues, as far as I can tell. And then there's this one thing that came up, and we just were back and forth. It's a live stream. I was in the comments. There's a little delay, might be a little confusion, and little mistime statements or something. But basically, he was advocating just death tax. So this, we're both really like a lot of the Austrian economics and anarco-capitalist thoughts and such, but I'm fairly certain that this did not originate from them, what he's reading and paying attention to. But he latched onto it, and he sees economic inequality as a major issue. And somehow the pooling of money is a problem. And um, so, thinking to Elon Musk, he's said some things that threw me off as well, and just completely ignored him for a long time. And I finally came around to what he's doing and what he's accomplishing, and just drawn in by the fact that there's all these electric cars and rockets and cool things going on, and that he is very successful. He is that man out there, who is, this serial entrepreneur, is the phrase that's kicked around. I think that's about the best way to describe him. I don't know if there's anyone else quite like that, but he's added, I don't know, like 6 companies or something that he's starting on, and he's had quite a bit of success. Um, I don't think he's had a failure yet for some reason. I'm sure he's had failures within those companies, but the companies, they succeed. He's all about failing hard, failing quick, but looking for a chance of success, and being a physicist. And he's been with, I don't know, if you call him a physicist, but I'm sure he's had more training than I have, and he's into economics as well. But he's saying stuff that to me is stupid. Um, like, I don't see how there's ever going to be a point in time that, as the number of jobs to do any one task, number of jobs, people employed in accomplishing tasks goes towards zero, that there will ever come a point where people are not employed to do tasks. They just move on to different tasks, and there's no reason why that can't continue on and forever. There's always more to be done in the world of finite resources we live. There's always something else out there to do. It can be a very small thing, relatively speaking, but we make all these things that we make more cheaply done, the small things, the everyday home cheap things. So the things that are left are the things that need done. But he's engaging the topic of universal basic income, the idea that might have merit in a relativistic sense, that we have social programs, and we could probably save money by just handing people money. And in some relativistic sense, when we contrast that with a socialist state, that might make sense. He, you know, the thing about what was proposed, I think he understands that the idea of money being accumulated and that money being passed on to children or however that person sees fit to distribute their money, there's the idea that that's a problem somehow, that causes problems. Okay, the inequality of wealth is a problem in and of itself. It's not that they're poor people, but that they're poorer than the rich people that is the problem. That's a distinct, unmeasurable. There wasn't any evidence provided for this. I don't believe in empirically proving economic ideas. It's because you don't really try two systems side by side exactly. You don't. There's no. If there's no way of falsifying it, it's just simply a logical step. So, but he was neither providing any evidence or logical reasoning why this would be the case, that we'd end up being a bad thing, nor was he trying to empirically prove it or cite anything. There's these two things side by side. There's the difference, and then there's the fact that they're poor. Those, you could attribute one to the other, but there's no real way of isolating it. If we just hand them money or something and make them richer, or take the top off and cut the rich people down to size, that's not going to really make them feel better about themselves unless they have more stuff that they want when they get done. This is kind of the basis of the problem with no basis behind it as far as I could tell. Underneath, there's this idea that somehow if a rich person has money, that is out of the economy, and they could put it back into the economy by giving it away or giving it to charity or something like that. Fundamentally, what's going on is that there's never a point in time when money is out of the economy. So money itself, cash, that we trade around, if it's not spent, it is in use. It is not in competition with someone else's money. So if we just have half of the money and we never spend it, we're never going to compete with the goods and services offered at the moment. And so it's like you go to an auction and your competition didn't show up and everything is cheaper. Your money is more powerful at that auction. That's how it works. So that part doesn't make any sense. If they're hoarding cash, and they're not doing that. They're invested in the bank who is distributing it and taking advantage of the fact that you have cash. You can get usury, and you can whatever. It's in use. Usury isn't. That's a different topic. But it's just the classical sense of the word, where you earn money. The neoclassical sense of the word. I'll say it that way. So basically, rich people have their money in business, or they waste it frivolously. The suggestion was putting it back in the economy by taking a vacation, whatever. So you've consumed this thing, you've consumed this wealth, you spent it in this direction, and once it's consumed, those people who are busy entertaining you could have built something that lasts as well. They could have been employed elsewhere. It doesn't flow logically that wasting puts anything back into the economy. By consuming goods, there are less goods and services available. That's all there is to it. If you choose to forego, the person who suffers is that rich person. They have produced this wealth, and let's assume that we're dealing with a world where we're not bribing people, we're not cheating, we're not playing underhanded with the money. We are engaging in the voluntary exchange of goods and services. That means that at every point along the way, honest people, let's talk about Elon Musk. He's probably doing it mostly honestly. I can't point to a thing otherwise. So he's buying things, he's hiring people who agree, and he's just engaging the market. And the difference that accumulates to where he has more money is where he's made good decisions and foregone. He has worked countless hours in a useful direction that people recognize as useful and are willing to pay him money for. And he has foregone wasting it. He buys a McLaren here and there or something. I don't know. That seems a little bit like a waste. He went out and wrecked it. That's things removed from the economy. He experiments to a certain extent. He'll fly rockets that a lot of them failed at first. That's sort of a waste, but he and his team gained knowledge from that and useful experience. These bad decisions combined with good, and foregoing a lot of waste. He can't just carry on projects all over the place if they don't have a purpose. He shuts down projects. We can't go in all directions. We got to focus on the direction that is profitable. He makes calls, and he is entrusted with being the direction. People want to line up behind him and make him more useful by throwing money at whatever problem he wants to take on. They trust him with that. I don't know what kind of salary he takes, if he just reinvests whatever he gets out of that, but when they throw money at his existing capital in his business, they might take less of a premium for getting in late or something. They're propping up the value of what he has and what he's doing. They like it. They want to look far ahead just like he's looking far ahead, and they're in sync with that. All these things, hey, I'm sure this guy I'm talking to thinks that's great, but when he dies, what about that? Well, Elon Musk actually thinks about the future, and he has children, and he cares about them. I don't know how much he plans on giving to them, and it's hard to say because he has to balance what people think about rich people and such. He does engage in philanthropy. His idea, it's in the works, is hey, SpaceX, we want to be into communications and give internet to the rest of the world. So that's a good thing. So these people were bringing up an idea of something that would be useful, and it would be useful for third world ladies to have diva cups or something. That might be cheap and useful. I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's probably true. That would be a great thing to improve people's lives. Perhaps they might enjoy that. So, Elon Musk thinks they could use internet. This charity idea is not really anything special, because wealth. I mean, they still got to get a computer or something to use the internet. And, you know, that's just it. The computer's useful now that there is internet. You know, we can do a lot of things because of that. And what comes in behind that infrastructure of internet is profit-making businesses. That's that's where the actual charity is. If he charges money, you know, if it's not free and he charges money, but he provides it there and it's a utility available, perhaps he can make money off of that and then go do it again somewhere else. Just keep multiplying it, keep piling it back in. Charity, especially when it's consumed, it's not making money available to plow it back into anything. So making rich people more rich, they're just like below Elon Musk, these engineers and everything, kind of makes people want to be engineers and kind of makes people want to keep being engineers and things like that. There's at least an incentive there for it. Charity and nonprofit endeavors, I was, I guess Microsoft is still a large company and growing and such, but Bill Gates is not my poster boy, even though he has large philanthropic plans. Elon Musk is my poster boy because he's plowing back into making profit, and there's really no other way around making things happen besides profit. So you take the profit and then you turn it into giving it away to poor people. That's not quite the same thing as taking profit and finding another profit venture that employs these poor people. And it's a decision call, but if you go too far with giving away all your money, there's really none left. There's really no decision calls left to be made after you run out of money. There's nothing else left to do. And the means to do this thing that you call good and do more of that comes from reinvesting it. So I don't see as it's superior in any way to give your money away, to, quote, put it back in the economy. It's never gone from the economy. So when I look at Elon Musk, this thing he said regarding universal basic income, I heard that a long time ago, and it really turned me off of him, as I said. And I think that he just wanted to engage people that didn't understand these concepts. These concepts they're evidently not that easy to understand, but I think it might be a disingenuous statement. If there comes a point where automation or universal intelligence allows us to not employ people because the number of people employed for any particular task goes down and down and down and down to zero, it's going to approach zero for any individual task. That's the whole idea of automation and industrialization, and that's a good thing. It frees people up to do something else. It's happened 100 times in the past. You just look at a cart. It's like, oh, I can carry lots more stuff. Get a train, and now they're automated vehicles. And we can move on to something else. So it's happened 100 times before, and just because we basically eliminate maybe the driving part, we eliminate the pulling part before where people pull, or we eliminate the carrying part. I mean, it's happened already quite a few times. There's parts remaining. There's like, I want this there type business to be done. There's, maybe you think that artificial intelligence can run a marketplace on its own. No, it cannot tell you what is desirable to people. People can tell you what's desirable to them. It cannot tell you the relative desirability of things from one perspective. You cannot calculate, it's not possible to calculate the best use of each individual resource. You cannot do that. There's just a calculation problem that is beyond the universal intelligence that is an individual human. It is composed of all intelligences, and it's just their guess, their combined guess, is a better guess than any one piece. There's not going to be artificial intelligence does not make my property the property of some company that is the first to the market with that. It doesn't do that. No matter how rich someone gets, no matter how well they do a job, it's not like them becoming richer and doing more takes away from me. I engage them on a voluntary basis. Anything I trade for them is something that is more valuable to me than what I had previously. My wealth increases through trade, it doesn't decrease through trade. Standing side by side with a rich person, unless they somehow get around this idea of respecting my property rights. That's not any goal of artificial intelligence. It's not going to make me poor. Living next to poor people doesn't make me poorer. Living next to rich people doesn't make me poorer. Doesn't make me richer. What makes me richer is getting more of what I want, and that's engaged with anyone. If I want what they have more than what I have, and I'm willing to part with it, and they agree, it's that both of us are made richer by it in our estimation. And that's the only estimation that counts. So I don't see how this wealth inequality could be a problem. It's poverty that's a problem. I don't see how you think you're going to improve the situation by removing incentives. So what you're doing when you're worrying about these bratty kids who are spoiled rotten by the getting $1 trillion from their parents, that's your concern. Somehow there's a magic cutoff line that it's going to keep going up and up, and in the past it would have been below our measurement of wealth if you're going to take a percentage, and it's just an irrelevant, arbitrary way of detracting from a rich person's incentive to continue working. So you ask yourself the question, you see Elon Musk making great things, do you want to disincentivize him? So, okay, Elon, you can't use any of this wealth anymore. You can have it, you can control it, but you can't spend it exactly how you want with regards to your children. You can give it all to them maybe before you die and get around this and have them be taxed or something. I don't know what the idea is there. But upon death, you cannot transfer but $1 million. Arbitrary number, $1 million. X $1 million. Can't do $1 billion, can't do $1 trillion, just $1 million. I don't know where this number was coming from. And it didn't make any sense. So, he brought up that, I brought up that what we're doing is limiting his ability to spend his money. And he brought up that, we limit people's ability to spend their money when it comes to criminal activities like pedophilia or something like that. Yeah, that's true. And if a man or someone would value that, technically you would be limiting the value of his money by taking away his top priority at the time to spend with that money. I was not claiming that it is not okay to limit the value of money by not allowing it to be spent in some way. So I'm all for limiting the value of money. The idea of money is that it is limited, and I can only give you so much value with this money. I cannot give you everything, and you cannot buy more than what I gave for it. It's not my job to prop up the money. It's my job to show the last person how much I value that money whenever I grabbed it through our trade. And then, that money is not propped up by anything other than that going back, regressing back, and them expecting something of similar value. So, yeah, this is not a complete argument, but what you're doing is you are eliminating the value that could be received by that person from money for no good reason. So if a person values their children and valuing them for genetics or whatever because they're the same genes as you, there's no reason to complain about that. But if you do want to complain about that, then what about the fact that those kids are theirs to raise, and they appreciate people like that? We appreciate people who are on our side and think clearly, and you would want to raise your kids to have values that you value. That is, a perfectly legitimate reason to want to look to them to carry on as well. I don't have to disparage one or the other. There's many reasons, but your motivations are contained in these often. This is often the case that you choose your children. And if you didn't, then you would choose otherwise. You can write a will and write them out of your will. That's an option. Hopefully, you find something that lasts beyond you. You really want someone cashing in all their chips, wasting all that they personally created right here and now, and taking it out of the system, throwing it away, because you've described basically that. So that is a problem. You want to put it back in the economy. That doesn't make any sense. It's in the economy. You're doing fast trades, or if you want to get some enjoyment out of it, that's great. That's your business. If you want to encourage people to artificially stop saving and investing and being involved in the economy and making more money, that's just the stupidest thing ever. There's nothing about them being wealthy that detracts from the poor people. And I was just shocked that someone who has very similar ideas on economics is able to miss this. I can kind of understand why Elon, even if he doesn't like universal basic income, would talk about it and engage the topic and play along. In the future, it won't shape up that there are no jobs. If he eliminates all jobs, then we can have this scenario where there's a universal basic income as far as he's concerned. It's not going to happen. So while it was discouraging to me to hear him talk about some concept that is a stupid idea, I understand if he would want to engage it. Rich people are not going to be able to lead the way in getting people to recognize the purpose of respecting the property rights of rich people. They're just not going to be able to do that. And giving away their money and, people get hard feelings or something about it, them being so rich and so being above them and passing it on to their kids who may or may not simply squander or waste it. that's a job, squandering and wasting that, and you're putting it off to the next generation. That's a positive. So you're breaking up the job that guy has to do if he wants to save all his money, and he can spend his life creating wealth, and he doesn't have to destroy it for his kids. So that's a win. It's in the economy. It's doing good. He is advancing humanity, and then his kids can blow it. And so who are you to tell him that you, the government, or someone else's kids who were definitely not raised by him, deserve it more? That's pretty ridiculous. So it's pretty easy for a kid to simply, if he's not smart, your dad says, well, you're not too smart regarding investment. You should probably engage some of this money and play around with it. And maybe you just diversify out the rest of this when I'm gone, and then society can use all those things that I owned, that money, that capital, and you don't have to be a waster. You can leave this value in the system, this infrastructure, this capital, and people can use it still. So whatever, it's not that hard to teach a kid how to deal with money. If they want to build a big mansion and spend lots on occupying people doing something just to please them, that's their business as far as I can tell. That's basically what happens when you give it away. They just, find ways to squander it on the here and now. It's, just as valid to have people in society who can think more than a week ahead, think more than 5 years ahead, think more than another lifetime. It's just as valid to have people with lots of money, and if they, it just basically does not hurt you for them to accumulate this. Discouraging that is bad, and don't do it. Respect even rich people's stuff. And that's all I have to say. If you made it this far, then this video is sponsored by nutritionfacts.org, and you go there and you learn about nutrition and save your life. Add 10 years to your life and 15 years to your functioning brain, and just function better and stuff. And you might as well go vegan while you're at it.